had every intention of recording a full start to finish video removing these turbos from the 335 using advice from other videos online. However, it quickly became apparent that the cars in the videos that are available aren't your typical UK cars with UK weather and over 100,000 miles on. So my car, the 335 I've got, has 140k on, and I thought that the best thing I could do at this point is share my experience and give away some tips or places that you'll struggle doing the job. So immediately after removing the under tray, the first job is to remove this brace here from the subframe. Now this is held on with 16mm bolts. However, as you'll see from this here, try drilling into that one, the bolts have captives that are in the subframe and they become loose, and so the bolts loosen off initially and then just spin, and there's very little you can do about this because there's no access, especially when this is still attached to the vehicle. You can barely even see the captives. So I ended up having to give up trying to remove two of the bolts because I had two that were completely impossible to remove, and remove the whole thing, which is a little bit more awkward, but it is doable depending on how you've got the car held up. So I had a little bit of a struggle on this corner because obviously the axle stand is on the sill and this edge of the brace was slightly under. My first piece of advice would be to get the car jacked up as high as possible. So what I did was I jacked mine up and put it on ramps at the back and really heavy duty axle stands at the front. Do not take any risks when working under your car, especially on a job like this. And my second piece of advice is don't use an engine support, use an engine hoist, and I'll explain that in a minute. So straight away when you are removing the lower arms from the subframe, these can be very well jammed in compared to the videos shown online. They also don't mention drain your coolant from the start, and also drain at least half of your oil out, because at a point later on you will have to remove the oil return from the turbo and this will leak out. On the top of this subframe you've got this coolant pipe here which should be removed. However, I had a screw that was impossible to remove, so we had to take the pipes off at each end. The charge pipe you can see here is held on with 5mm hex clamps going to both turbos, and then this join here. However, it's really difficult to undo these fully until later on in the job when you're under the car. So for the front one here, I've got a 5mm hex bit in position already through here, and what I'm going to have to do is stick a 10mm spanner on there to turn it. I'm pretty sure both the videos I watched showed a struggle getting the steering rack through the subframe. However, this isn't as difficult as they have perhaps made it. So the steering rack can be detached from the steering column just with this torque screw here. So I'm going to remove the steering rack, or at least drop it. So I've put the steering lock on the central, and now we can remove this bolt here, and we should be able to drop the steering column out of the way, the steering rack out of the way, and move the steering column up and away from the turbos, giving us a bit more access. Bolt out of here, that was an E10. We can remove it from the spline. Now I love the manifold bolts on this engine. They are copper, I'm guessing, and they have a T50 Torx in the middle, and they're also an 11mm. Now if you've worked on a lot of other cars, you'll know how bad these can be to remove, and basically all of these came out really nice and easy. It's just the access that can be an issue. Now this is when it helps to have the hoist and be able to lift and drop the engine depending on whether you're working underneath or above the car. So when the engine is dropped, it's a lot easier to access above the turbos and obviously work from underneath the car. And then when you need to get to the manifold bolts from the top, you can raise the engine. The biggest problem that I had were the exhaust downpipe studs and nuts were completely ruined. So if you look here, you can see I've had to drill into the nut that was holding this one on and completely cut off the lower one that I could actually access. Now this wouldn't be as much of an issue if the exhaust wasn't one piece all the way from the downpipes to the silencers at the back, and this is one unit, both pipes, and even the back boxes are joined, which makes it a lot harder because these, where they join the turbos, are pointing in different directions, and you can't remove them unless they're detached from the centre pipe. So this cost me a lot of time. So thank you for listening to me ramble. I hope that a few of the points at least in this video will help you with your job, and I hope that you've watched this before you've started your job, especially in the UK like myself. Now these are going to be sent off and have the rattling actuator arms replaced, and then finally the car should be perfect. I've got plenty of other videos on this car, the E92 335i, and I hope that you'll follow some more of my content in the future. Thanks very much for watching.